a bet that you have to have that behind you.
The Atlanta Braves one?
Yeah.
Well, they are the World Series champions for at least another, 7 months?
Yep.
So it'll stay up for another 7 months.
Yep.
Welcome to the Midday Show. I'm Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. And joining us today, welcome Jason Fink, President and CEO of the Williamsport Lycoming Chamber of Commerce. I practiced that at least 10 times last night before we came on the show. We're going to talk about some initiatives and developments within our communities. Jason, before I get to introduce you, we started off the same way every day. He'll whine and complain that I don't care about him, but the first question of every show is, Mark, how are you feeling today?
Now I'm feeling a little mocked. You know how you walk into rooms sometimes, Jason, people say, how you doing? And they don't really care.
Yep.
You can tell. They're just saying it because they kind of feel like they have to. Jeff doesn't care how I'm feeling. He just throws it out there. But today it's actually going to be relatively decently warm. So we're going to get back over 50 because I have to umpire a Little League game tonight. And if it was going to be too cold, I was going to call in sick, I think, because at my age, I just can't do cold.
This early question, the how you're feeling question, has basically become the weather allergy report question.
Sometimes.
I should just ask you
Sometimes. We should have a sponsor for it.
I was just going to ask, is there
Brought to you by
UPMC over
Sudafed
here or something like
Mark,
that?
how are you feeling? Not that I take Sudafed because I don't.
Welcome, Jason Fink. Again, Jason's the president of the Williamsport Lycoming Chamber of Commerce. We're happy to have him on today to talk about some of the things that are going on in our communities. Jason, hello. Can you give everyone just a 30-second, 60-second rundown who you are, what you do, and why you look so snazzy today?
Okay, how about all that except for the last thing?
That's fine.
That was the only part I really cared about.
Yeah,
I mean, all the
well,
other
that's-
stuff's on the screen.
Yeah. Well, I grew up here in the county, over in the Montgomery area. Went to school over at Montgomery. Graduated from there. Went to school in North Carolina. Graduated from Methodist University in early 90s. Went and did a little bit of work in Pittsburgh. Came back here. Started working at the chamber actually very early on. Back in 1996, and I've been with the chamber ever since, actually. So
Methodist is down in the Carolinas, isn't it?
yeah, yep. They've got it's a D3 school, very similar to Lycoming College, actually.
Okay.
So yeah, yep.
Do they have any sort of religious affiliation?
Well, they are Methodist affiliated institution.
I
yes.
said, yeah. If he'd have said like Baptist or something, he
I
could have
did pick
rolled right
something up.
with it.
I picked something up while I was down there.
So here, I think this is a really good question. Mark and I talk about sometimes talking at a fourth grade reading level, but for someone who doesn't know exactly what the Chamber of Commerce does, can you give us just a brief kind of 1-minute synopsis of what the Williamsport Lycoming Chamber of Commerce is and what it does for the community?
Well, our chamber actually is different than a lot of other chambers in that we're not just the general Chamber of Commerce that does Main Street type of programming within the community. We do those types of programs, but we're also the tourist promotion agency for Lycoming County. We're the designated TPA for Lycoming County. We operate the Lycoming County Visitors Bureau. That's one of the components that we do. We're also the Industrial Development Corporation for the county as well. So we do industrial development activities, bringing industry to Lycoming County, as well as working with existing industry to keep their operations here, grow their operations. So it's what we're considered one of those that are more of a full service chamber of commerce. So,
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Are you looking at me? You want me to ask a question?
I'm trying to pass it back and forth.
Oh, well, I didn't. Well, you were just. I'm still wondering why he's so snazzy. But so, like,
I gotta wear this. Yeah, I deal with the business community, so still, it's not post-COVID in our world, so we're back to what we were doing normally. No sweatpants and blue jeans and stuff like that anymore, unfortunately.
So, Jeff, you should probably go change.
Actually, be you.
I should go put pants on, is what you're saying?
Well,
I do not want to go there.
Speaking of COVID, one of the things that obviously everyone's seen is so many people working from home.
Yep.
And what is that? How's it affected downtown? When you drive through any downtown, whether it be Williamsport or any smaller community, you see the old traditional downtowns with a lot of empty buildings. Has that been detrimental to the chamber, or has it just is it just different and the business is still there? It's just in a different location?
You know, not only our community, but other communities across the country, small and large, actually are dealing with this right now. You know, it's still too early to tell who is not going to come back, but there are going to be those who have transitioned their offices to home, allowing their workers to work from home. And communities are going to need to deal with it. You know, we're probably going to be in that situation here in Lycoming County. I know that it's something on the radar of the city administration in particular. You know, being able to look at what you can do with those spaces. You know, one of the key things that we keep hearing is housing. Housing is a major challenge right now here in Lycoming County. Is there an opportunity to be able to transition some of those upper floors into residential living, whether it be condo style, apartment style, however that developer envisions repurposing those structures?
We've talked a lot about just the housing. I hate to say crisis because it always makes it sound like your hair's on fire, but we've talked a lot about just kind of the housing crisis, especially in this area, and how I've never linked the two between housing and employment and economic numbers and how correlated they are. Do you guys, I mean, I'm assuming you have studies. How do you guys go about finding those numbers? How do you guys even look into those types of things?
Well, we actually have been talking about this for the past several months internally. One of the things that I've taken away from those discussions is the fact that the available inventory in our market, which has traditionally hovered in the somewhere 700 to 800 range, we're now looking at available inventory in our market of 150, no more than 200 homes out on the market. And that's not just here within Lycoming County. It's the service area for the West Branch Realtors Association. And, you know, that's to me troubling just because of the fact that we have jobs coming into our market. We have new industries coming in. We have new companies who are making an investment in our area, as well as companies who are here that are looking to expand their operations. And if we can't bring new people into our area to take on those jobs, it's going to be very tight in terms of our labor market, which it is approaching that right now.
You know, I'd said a long time ago, way before COVID, when you drive through these small town areas, that the old traditional from 100 years ago where they had the shop on the first floor and they lived above it, and you see some of these that are empty, and you kind of try to envision what kind of a business can go in there and survive. And we see things like insurance offices and stuff like that. But I've thought for years now that many of those need to be repurposed to put an apartment on the first floor and an apartment on the second floor. And that the small downtowns of these communities can't all be businesses anymore because so many of the businesses have moved to strip malls and things like that. That maybe if there's more people living and fewer businesses, that the ones that are there could survive. Before we go like too much further, how many businesses are in the chamber?
We have about 900 businesses that are members of the chamber.
So, like, name the ones that you really can't stand, that are really hard to work with. Just rattle off a couple real quick.
Let me see. I think NorthcentralPA.com could be right there.
The Midday show is probably on the top.
We're the ones, because we're close. When there's a PM exchange, we'll be the ones showing up the day of with our check and be like, hey, can we still go tonight?
Yeah, hey, we
like,
take it.
They do. They're always
it.
nice to us. They're like, yes,
Exactly.
you can still go.
I have a question for the both of you, because you threw out a number. I think you said 150 to 200 available homes right now in the market. You being with the commerce and you obviously being in real estate, can you put those, for a lame duck like me that's not in any of those worlds, can you put that into context? Like how much significant, like in the month of April, is that significantly lower to what 3, 4, 5 years ago, what the housing market would have been?
Yes, it's lower. It's significantly lower than what it was 10 or 15 years ago.
Okay.
Back, there's obviously issues. One of them is that there's just no new construction because there's so much cost. The materials are so costly. And now with COVID, actually the shipping of the materials. So it's become so cost prohibitive for people to build anything new. And we kind of had a boom for a while, at least here in Lycoming County, up kind of the north side of Loyalsock, those big, nice houses were going in. Down kind of between Montoursville and Muncie, there were a couple new developments that went in, and there just aren't any anymore because logistically a home builder can't make any money, and it's so cost prohibitive for a person to build their own home. You do see some every now and then, but so it's just the older ones, and then more and more people start buying up the smaller properties and make them rental properties. And as the gas industry came in, you saw more and more people that and those just don't get turned over as much.
Just Jason, you're gonna find out I'm a very curious person.
Oh, hey.
What are
Some people say curious, some say annoying.
It just depends
Some
who you talk
yes.
to. Like you brought up the housing market factor and related that to the economy and to the business side of it. What are some other factors that maybe someone like me wouldn't necessarily attach to? Yes, we have all these new businesses or all these new jobs coming, but what are the other factors we should be worried about, like having enough housing? Are there other things that maybe the normal person doesn't think about when they think about new jobs or creating new industry?
Well, you look at some of the infrastructure challenges that we have, aging infrastructure, and that's, again, not only locally, it's nationally. You hear about this. There's, the Build Back Better approach that they're throwing out there to be able to use some of those funds, the ARP funds, as we refer to be able to address those here across the country. And, locally, it's a big issue for us. And I mean, you look at what Williamsport Water Authority, is dealing with. There's breaks in their line system that they're dealing with from time to time. That if they had a newer system, they wouldn't be dealing with that. But you look at it, we're an older community. You've got older pipes, and that all needs to be addressed. And from that aspect of it, we're hopefully going to see a plan in place to be able to address those types of things. Because it affects not only just the industrial side of it, the business commercial side of it, but it also affects a lot of what we're talking about in terms of housing. Housing requires that investment in infrastructure, and it's not just the water, the sewer, the roads. It's also electric, natural gas, all the other things that come into play.
How much? Maybe this is just totally off the wall. How much do you deal with the airport?
I will tell you right now, airport is a major factor for us right now. And I need to say this, it's not just Williamsport that's dealing with this issue. It is so many other small community airports are struggling right now. Even State College is running into problems. Wilkes-Barre is running into problems. You look at the airline industry as a whole, they were struggling prior to the pandemic to be able to get pilots. Pandemic hits, certain airlines laid off their pilots, so they weren't keeping up with all of the things that they need to keep certifications in place. So they try to ramp up. They don't have those pilots to be able to tap into quickly. So you run into that. Then you hit fuel costs that come into play. Now you've got fuel challenges. Businesses that are going and doing stuff like this right now, utilizing Zoom instead of flying. So there's a desire to get back to pre-pandemic, but there's so many other factors that come into play that you can't. And then you've got our small community airport that, gets dropped off because of the fact that the regional carriers can't hire enough to be able to fly regional flights because their pilots are being picked up by the main lines because they can pay more. And it's created an issue that, our community and other communities like ours are sitting here with a great airport, but no planes coming in.
You know who could fly a plane? Jeff.
If Jeff could fly a plane, I would definitely say go.
He would YouTube it.
They have unbelievable simulators now.
Yeah, I'll bet you could do it.
I could probably figure it out in like 3 or 4 years.
I thought you were gonna say 3 or 4 hours. I would give you.
It's like there's a lot of things, especially like post-COVID, and people would always say like shop local, support local. There was the whole restaurant drive, save your local restaurants. There are things like the airport that can a local community even save its local airport? Like is there anything that a local community can do to support some of this stuff that you don't necessarily are hearing about over and over and over again?
The airport's a tricky one just because of the fact that we could have the best numbers, and we did actually. I'll be honest with you. If if you were flying right after they had dropped the service and said they were pulling service, and then back in January of 2021, they reinstituted service, but it was one flight daily at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon to Philadelphia. I'm surprised how many people actually utilize that service because your connectors into the banks that were available were horrible at that time. You know, the ideal for a community like ours to be able to fly into a main terminal is having flights very early in the morning, mid-morning, and then late in the afternoon and evening on the returns, because that way you can get in and out easily. That flight schedule was horrible. They were actually filling the plane towards the end of the schedule when they ended up pulling it, and it's amazing to me. We've got the support now. It will be a challenge to be able to get that support back because people now are becoming more accustomed to going over to State College or going down to Harrisburg or up to Elmira, over to Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and all the other options that they are forced to be able to utilize. So, but if we get a good service in, they'll use it. I feel very comfortable in that. I've talked to a number of industries who are right now saying we need to get that back because right now it's inconvenient. We lose a half day to a day, depending on what airport we're flying out of. Even out of State College, it's a half day out of your time. And people just go, oh, well, it's only time. Well, for business, it's time equates money.
I have a business idea locally. What if we put a hockey team in the baseball stadium? What do you think of that?
I will tell you right now, I would recommend that you take and look at freezing over Rose Valley Lake before you invest in something like that.
I don't think you need that much space. Rose Valley is probably a little too big.
I love Rose Valley.
It's too big for hockey, but
The Rose Valley Roses would have
the Rose Valley
go.
Roses.
We've already got a team name for it. So
Look at you.
What are some stuff, Jason? Just if you had to come in here and you had to pick, one or two things to tell people about involving commerce or Chamber of Commerce, what would you have done? What are some things maybe on the docket or people can look forwards?
Well, I will tell you, in terms of new companies coming in that we've been working with, if you look at what's happening across from the county landfill, a lot of people were like, that property's never going to be developed. The county's been using it for top fill for landfill operations. It's been known as the Timber Run Industrial Park now for about a little over 2 decades. And we were always struggling to be able to bring in an industry to there. We now have a very solid company coming in, Digger Specialties Incorporated. They will be opening up next month. They do powder coated aluminum fence product along with plastic fence product. They'll be employing about 150 people there, all good family sustaining wages. We're excited to be able to see that coming in because that will now help us sell the next company to go into that industrial park. So from that aspect of it, that is definitely something that we are anxious to be able to see happen.
Is the first one always the hardest? To convince them to take that step and kind of be the first one. You almost need a company with maybe a little bit of vision.
Well, especially when it's across from the landfill. I mean, I don't care how much you can take and paint that picture. But when you're driving down the mountain and you see the trash trucks going into the turn road right across from where you're considering, it's a tough sell. And, no matter how good of an operation, which we do have a very good operation over there to be able to minimize the smell, there are those days in, July and August where you'll drive by and you get a whiff of it.
I can totally relate to that because when they were trying to convince me to come here, and Mark would walk in every day, and I would just.
I was gonna go with that joke, and
wow.
I thought I'm gonna leave that one alone. And then Jeff brings it right back at me.
You know what? I had a vision, and
You had
here
a
I am,
vision.
and now we're the almost Emmy-nominated.
Yeah.
Oh,
Here
we go.
Let me summarize his vision. His girlfriend said, "Why don't you get a job?" And that was about the end of the vision right there.
Or the beginning.
Or the beginning, one of the two. That was it, one of the ends.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I was gonna say, so what else do you have on the horizon? Are you guys now? This is are you guys part of First Friday, or is that an independent entity that you guys just are around?
I mean, that actually is handled by the Arts Council,
Okay.
Lycoming Arts. And while we're right there along it and we do support whatever they need, it's something that they spearhead. So you
Okay.
know, we play our role in it. So
No, what else? I like the gossip there with Digger. Do you have any other?
yeah, actually, if you didn't see, we've got here in the city of Williamsport, up in Reach Road, you're looking at West Pharmaceuticals. They're going to be expanding their operations. They expect to break ground sometime late spring, early summer for an expansion there. West is making a major investment there. You're probably looking at about 35 $35 million capex expenditure for them on it. And so from that aspect of it, you're looking at, I think they're projecting about 50 new jobs coming into the city for that. That's exciting to be able to see something. They've got the available land. West has 2 plants here in Lycoming County, and not only the Williamsport one, but over in Jersey Shore as well. Combined, they employed just about 600 people, which is great to be able to see that. And Jersey Shore has been growing for about a year or so themselves. They did a lot of work with regards to the containers and plungers for the COVID delivery methods that they use for shots and stuff. So,
out of curiosity, we keep talking about job creation and they'll bring in this many jobs. How do you guys? I'm assuming obviously like wages. There's different ways. How do you guys measure what a job brings in? Like, how do you guys? I know I'm doing a poor job of asking that question, but like, what is the value of like one job? Like, how do you guys weigh that in? So when you say this is going to bring in 150 jobs, how does that necessarily like export out into the community, and like what is the intrinsic value of that?
well, I mean, you look at it, you've got the direct, which is the company itself putting that investment in, which that company will then be paying taxes based off of their footprint that they take up. Those taxes go to the township municipality that they're operating from. In addition to that, you're looking at the school district. They will pay school district taxes. And then finally, you've got taxes. I shouldn't say finally. They also have taxes to the county, and then all the state taxes that they're required to pay. So you've got that right there is an impact from the company itself. And then you've got the employees side of it as well. Those 150 new jobs, those individuals will also be burdened with paying taxes as well. And so from that aspect of it, you've got that money flowing out, not only to the taxing bodies, but also being able to spend that money within the community where they reside, whether it be in that greater Montgomery area where Digger's at, or people who will, live elsewhere beyond just the greater Montgomery area.
How long did you say you've been with the chamber? Did you say 20 years?
Actually 26 plus now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like historically, a lot of the world was about job creation. And probably in the last 2 weeks, I've watched older movies about, getting people jobs, and someone moved to a new city and needed to find a job. And a lot of, it's been about job creation. But now in a climate where people already have existing jobs that they can't fill, is that how do you balance that? Do you get any pushback from the existing companies that say, you tell us you've got this new company coming in with 150 jobs, we can't even fill the positions we're looking for?
We do. I mean, it's one of those things where, and it's understandable from the perspective that, you look at companies right now in this point in time, but who knows what's going to happen in a week from now or 2 weeks from now, that you see a change in the economy and certain industry sectors start suffering and having to lay off. It's not always going to be operating at this level. There are peaks and valleys. Right now we're at a peak, and the thing about it is you need to bring those companies in when you can, because there will be those downtimes, and that's just a harsh reality on that factor, on that side of it too.
I never thought it's almost like buy low, sell high.
And to me, it also sounds like it's better to have too many than
absolutely
to end up not having.
I haven't thought about that, but yes,
that's why I when he kept saying job creation, I really wanted to know how other people or someone who has 25 plus years of experience in this, how do they view the value of a one job created?
Right.
And so even just the tax side of it, the 3 different funnels, I'd never heard it explained that way. And I think for a lot of people, like you said, we keep hearing job creation, job creation, job creation, but I think it very rarely is it explained like here is the value of job creation and why even though we don't necessarily need more jobs right now, there is going to be an intrinsic value eventually on the backside of it. Hopefully.
Well, do you think too, Jason, as we talk about here, and we like to think we're brilliant, but we don't know any more than anybody else.
Yeah.
But when we talk like with our friends through society, we think that as soon as the money stops being given out by the government, that people have to go back to work. Is that? I just saw another thing that there may be another stimulus check. I saw it come through my phone, and I'm not sure who it was to or what group or even what state. But is that kind of the belief throughout the business community that there are still people sitting at home that will return to the workforce once all the money stops coming?
You're seeing some of that, and actually you're already starting to see some of it. I've talked to a couple of industries that are seeing upticks in applications being submitted for positions that they've been posting. Actually, I was sitting at about 2 weeks ago, sitting with somebody in their office, and they pointed to a stack on their desk and said, "We haven't had that in probably a year." And if you look at the numbers, you can start seeing that reasoning that you shared. And the reason that I say that is because if you look at some of the banking numbers that are out there, if you recall, when they were pumping money out into the economy, people were able to save. They didn't want people to go out. So what do? You stay at home, you watch Netflix, or you watch this show, for example.
They should have.
Exactly.
Almost Emmy nominated.
We're almost Emmy nominated.
And so from that aspect of it, you look at that, and people were saving a lot of money. Bank accounts were growing, and it was at an all-time high. If you look at those numbers, and for the past several months, they've been steadily dropping. People have eaten up all their savings. Once you eat up all your savings, no more federal funds coming out. I got to go get a job. And that's what you're seeing now.
So your girlfriend was just ahead of the curve. When she told you got to go get a job, she's ahead of the curve.
You know that. Anything else off the top of your head, Jason? Things that people could look forward to? Or things
You got anything big on the horizon for 2022, 2023?
We're getting like the dirt here.
This is a much more intellectual conversation than we often have. We'll just say that.
Well, I will say we've got a few projects in another month or two. We probably could have another in-depth conversation about some new projects coming to the area.
You can just tell us. No one's watching.
Yeah, no, I know. It's one of those things where, I would love to drop those names, but we'll drop them in about a month or two.
Just you don't even just nod, just look away. ChickfilA.
Yeah, that was a bad rumor, and I hate to break it to everybody, but there's not going to be a ChickfilA.
Correct me if I'm wrong. They are one of the hardest franchises for somebody to get. I've read into what you actually have to do to get one and all the qualifications, and it is bonkers what you have to do to get one.
Yeah, ChickfilA. Let's see. You've got ChickfilA out there. People ask me about Krispy Kreme. Those are very difficult franchises to land. And I hate to say it, there's not going to be a ChickfilA for Little League World Series there either.
I don't mean to poo-poo or anything, but the Chick-fil-A guy gets a lot of bad pub. If you read his he's not the most, shall we say, tolerant person.
No, I know what you're referring to.
He's not overly tolerant.
You look, we got Popeyes coming in now.
That's true.
I have never had Popeyes.
See, I went to school in North Carolina, so I was very familiar with Popeyes.
It is fascinating that when you go places, when you go to the West Coast, and they're like, you got to go to In-N-Out Burger. And the first time you're there, you're like, what the hell is an In-N-Out Burger? And they are, what is it, Carl's Jr. is places. They're kind of like McDonald's is everywhere, Wendy's and Burger King and Subway and all those. But there are some that are very, very regionalized.
What were some in the Carolinas?
Hardee's, which we had a Hardee's up
there
here
used
years
to be
ago.
Hardee's.
Yep, there was a Hardee's on the Strip, but that went away. Hardee's was big, so we did that. Popeyes. Krispy Kreme was also down there. I mean, that's the home of Krispy Kreme, so very very familiar with those franchises.
Anything else off the top here? Anything you want to promote? This is kind of the floor is open. If there's anything you'd like to wrap up with.
Well, any of your folks who are wondering about Little League in general, because I brought that up, we are going to be doing the Grand Slam Parade this year. We're excited about that coming back after a 2-year lull. They can go on our website. They go to visit lycomingcounty.com. And they'll be able to download all the papers, or actually not download, actually we have them that they can electronically apply now for being in the parade. So that's out there. And the nice thing about it is it's going to be on a Monday this year. So it'll be Monday, August 15th. If for some reason it ends up not being a day like today, and it was more like a day like 2 days ago, we have a rain date now. So it'll be on Tuesday, August 16th. World Series kicks off on the 17th. And then we have Williamsport Welcomes the World. That'll be taking place on the 26th of August. So we're excited about that as well. So, and we wrap up our Bases Loaded project. Our final statues go in this year to culminate the 75th Little League World Series. We've got 3 statues that we'll be putting in for this year. We're excited about that.
I will say this. I'm historically a guy who talks about how parades pretty much suck and how when people sit on Thanksgiving and watch the Macy's Day Parade on TV for hours and hours is just beyond me. You know, we talk about in the 1920s, I realized why a parade was cool. I don't realize the small town parades where people, you walk up and down the street and you run into people, and the Williamsport Welcomes the World Parade. And I think also because of the time of year that the weather's nice, you're in shorts and a t-shirt and it's not a Thanksgiving, you're not bundled up. The Little League Parade is a really, really good time. It is, unless you just get an unseasonably bad day. But now with a rain day, they've got some, but it is, you know, you've got all the downtown businesses, you've got all the, you know, the food trucks and the things outside that, and you run into people that you just sometimes you haven't seen them in a year. So it is cool. The parade coming back to the Little League World Series is a big deal.
Just knock on wood for like a full-fledged Little League World Series.
They have to.
That will be the.
They have to.
It's just, we're due. It's time. Like, let's do it.
Oh, I think that unless something comes up that they run into issues, from what I'm hearing, you're going to see 20 teams here, and hopefully that international contingency will be back, and you know, all goes the way we want it to be, because it's the 75th and it's a big milestone for them.
Awesome.
Something else. What else just happened? Oh, Jackie Robinson was 75th.
Yeah, Jackie Robinson 75th. Actually, I can give you some insight.
I didn't realize that Jackie Robinson and Little League were the same year.
And Jackie Robinson was here actually 2 years, 1961, I think it was. And then in 1965, he was part of the ABC broadcast team. So, yeah.
They've been broadcasting the Little League World Series since 1965.
Oh, yeah, it was before that.
Even before that?
Yeah, because it was ABC Wide World of Sports, I want to say late 50s, I want to say they were here.
Wow.
Yeah, they've been doing it for several decades. So, yeah, you had that. Yeah, actually, trying to think. Yeah, you had Cy Young here in the early 50s. He was here in 51 through like 55.
Huh. Is this all at the museum? I'm assuming this stuff's listed.
It's got to be
this
somewhere.
stuff. Yeah, actually, it's listed over at the museum. They've got and they've got some audio clip of Cy Young talking about his thoughts on Little League. So
Now, like Cy Young was a much nicer guy than Ty Cobb. When you read through Ty Cobb was not. He did not win any congeniality awards, but Cy Young was a nicer guy.
Yeah, I think Ty Cobb may have kicked some of the kids over.
Right.
And
You suck.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, Jason, thank you so much for coming on. Really, really appreciated it. I hope our question. I think we did all right, though. You know, I'm a curious guy. I like to ask some questions here and there.
No.
I mean, it's interesting when you just think of what the chamber does is it tries to help the businesses and help them individually and help them help each other, because so many of the businesses worlds are intermingled that they use each other and they one person supplies another. And so it is it's a wonderful program. There's so many around, even our region. I know down in Columbia, Montour County, they have one, and then there's a Central PA one down more in the Milton Way. So these are all over the state. But if you are I had never been in one. I'd gone to a couple meetings when I was a realtor just because, but here at North Central PA, that we're actually members of the chamber, and to go and to see what they do and how much of an impact and how much they can help in the community it is important. And if you are a business, it's certainly, unless you're an incredibly unique business that doesn't need anyone else. If you're all cyber and all your clients are in Scandinavia, then it's one thing. But if you're embedded in the community, the chamber can be so beneficial.
Yes.
How's that for a plug?
I
don't
was
even
just
work
going to
there.
say,
That's a plug.
I appreciate that immensely. And we could end on that.
Yeah,
We could.
And I know, maybe stop back in right
Oh,
when
yeah.
summer starts.
Yep, definitely.
Right, maybe
When you
do
can
it
drop all
now,
those
summer.
secrets.
We can drop some stuff hopefully come June.
See, now every good thing that happens now, he can just come in and say, well, that's what I was talking about. I just didn't tell you.
Right.
So no matter what it was,
Streetness.
he has
That's
set
right.
himself up for success. I knew that was going to happen. I just couldn't tell you.
Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news. I'm Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. And thank you to Jason Fink of the Williamsport Lycoming Chamber of Commerce for coming on.
Or is he of the chamber, or is he the chamber?
No. Don't. No. I got a lot of good people over there.
Yeah.
We've got a great team over there.
But if you walk in and say, hey, you're fired, get it.
I'd fire myself before I'd do that to anybody.
All right.
Thanks again, Jason. We will see you all tomorrow.
See ya.